Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Herald here on Badlands Media. Very excited about today's episode. I have Ash joining me at the top of the hour here. We're going to discuss the Rico Grande case that is upcoming, and we have a little bet that we're kind of trying to hash out the details on. So we're going to do that live on air. We figured that'd be the best way to codify that. So before we bring her on, I'm going to get a quick word from our sponsors. And first up, we got Conscious Strength.
Big Pharma is officially on notice.
People are drinking methylene blue and stuff like that.
Yeah, methylene blue, which was a fabric dye.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a textile dye. And now they find it has profound effects on your mitochondria.
Yep.
Yeah.
This stuff works, man.
Do you know about methylene blue? Originally synthesized over 100 years ago, we are just finding out about its benefit as a supplement with its ability to help oxygenate the blood and amplify our mitochondria. People all around the world are using methylene blue to accelerate their brain power and support their energy levels. Conscious Strength. Methylene blue is pure USP grade, aqueous solution. Click the link to learn more and shop Conscious Strength now.
Awesome. Thank you to Conscious Strength. And as you all know, I'm a big proponent of the methylene blue stuff. I take it every single day. We also got a quick word from Van Man. Love these guys as well. Van Man's taking down big toothpaste with all natural oral care. Just pure effective ingredients for a healthier smile. The Van never stops. Powered by hydroxyapatite, nature's secret weapon, loaded with minerals like eggshells and bone, two of the best forms of calcium to remineralize teeth and build strong bone tissue. Van Man's tooth powder combined with pulling oils and peppermint aloe mouth rinse is truly the ultimate fluoride-free dental hygiene bundle that saves you 25% off the individual prices. Head on over to badlandsmedia.tv/vanman to hop in the van for the ultimate way to care for your teeth naturally. That's badlandsmedia.tv/vanman. All right, with that, let's bring on our guest of today's show, and that is Ash in America. Ash, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm really excited about this case, and I know it could be a rug. And every time I get excited about a new thing that comes out, hear G Money in my ear. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, you're standing on the rug again, dumbass. I don't know, man. This is
There's been so many rugs. There's been so many
rugs. Yes, but we are strong enough to handle a rug.
We are. But this is a fun one. You know, like of all the rugs we've gone through, it almost feels like we've been building a separate rug that may not get pulled out. And that is this rug. It's the Rico rug. And it's just very interesting. It's the culmination, we hope, of a lot of bullshit we've had to go through for the last few years. And let's talk about this first, our little bet. Okay. So, or maybe we should do it at the end of this. I don't know.
We should set up the reason for it, right? What is the dispute that we have? I think that's a good place to start.
Okay. Well, let's do that. Did you get that clip ready?
I put it in the private chat, but I have it. I can pull it up.
Yeah. Why don't you just share it?
Okay.
Because there's a recent clip on the Rico situation, and it was Trump. He was on John Solomon's show, being interviewed by John Solomon. Or is this the John Solomon and...
It's the same discussion. It's the exact same thing we were talking about, but this is new from this morning on Bannon, and we haven't played this one yet, so I figured we'd do this.
Perfect.
You did inform him that they're thinking about appointing a special counsel on this to take over this entire investigation.
Yeah, and he said, I think it's a good approach. Let's just do it. Let's get the trust of the American people. Let's get accountability, and then let's focus on the things that matter.
So he's on board with the situation of getting a special prosecutor and having the Epstein situation put into that, so that can be formally looked at.
Anything legitimate that should be looked at.
And really in a criminal context.
It, by the way, Steve. You know, I ask about the special, but he immediately volunteers, and then I follow up on it. But he immediately brings up Epstein. Like, just throw that in. Let's get it all answered. I got nothing to hide. I want truth, and I want prosecutions, and I just want the justice system to take care of what needs to be taken care of. It was really a remarkable moment.
It's interesting stuff. So, our bet, okay? How about you explain your position about the Epstein files, and then I'll explain mine, because I disagree.
So the dispute that we have is whether the Epstein saga, the dispute, the files, the list, the co-conspirators in that saga are part of the Grand Rico. I believe they are. And I think that we have a number of different data points for that. First of all, if we go back to Pam Bondi's tenure as AG, Florida AG, so the Epstein gets his sweetheart deal in 2008. She doesn't come in as AG until 2011, and she leaves in 2019. During that entire period, the Epstein case is, we're told, on ice. It's over. It's done. He got his deal. A part of that sweetheart deal was Alex Acosta basically telling people, listen, this was above my pay grade, and I was told to kill it. That's where the intelligence and, I think by extension, a lot of the blackmail stuff comes in, is because of how that original case in 2008 was handled. And also, excuse me, just going to the poison pill theory right now, right? The current files that they have a poison pill. They're fake files. It was created by Obama, et cetera, et cetera. The 2008 case, the files from that should be sound, you would think, because that was used in a court of law. There were filings and pleadings and whatnot. So we do have some information. So Pam Bondi is hands off during the duration of her time as Florida AG. Now, I think it's unbelievable that she wouldn't have been read in as the Florida AG of a case that happened in Florida. But she was hands off. Right after she leaves office in 2019, he allegedly kills himself in prison. Then, in 2025, she's named AG, and we start hearing about this case again. I think that's very interesting. Mm-hmm. The other reason for my belief here is that the Epstein trafficking operation and, if true, blackmail operation do not exist in a vacuum. They're for a purpose. They weren't just blackmailing powerful people because it was fun or because they thought that might do they were trying to drive policy, drive change. I sent the Prometheus update to you yesterday. And the thing I thought that was so interesting about that was the change in our financial system going from when we came off the gold standard to, 2008. Jeffrey Epstein played a key role in that, specifically after 9/11. My point is, I think it's all the same conspiracy. It's the same conspirators. And it's not just about blackmailing children. That's horrible. And there has to be justice and accountability for it. But the blackmail with the children and all of the other things they were ostensibly blackmailing on is it's part of a broader conspiracy for global power and control. That is, that's a RICO. Now, when the binders first came out, Brian and I did a whole bunch of content on this, and I've been consistent on my position that I think if you think about the Gambino family, and I put this in your chat last night, I looked this up back when the binders came out. The FBI case against the Gambino family was opened in the 1950s. It took until the 1970s for them to get meaningful arrests because of the way these racketeering, influence, corrupt organizations work. We're talking with this global cabal about a much larger scale and scope than the Gambino family. And I think it's going to take, it would take to document all the crimes, to be able to bring them into a court of law with our justice system that prioritizes the rights of the accused, that you would have to have every I dotted, every T crossed, and you'd have to have a very solid case. The behavior that I see from the administration and from the players prior to them taking office in January, is that there's a much bigger case going on at play here. I think the Epstein stuff is a part of it.
And see, I think where I differ is, where people get this preconceived notion of what the Epstein files is, like all the blackmail and pedophilia stuff, whether or not that is true or, isn't what we think, whatever. I don't think that aspect of the Epstein files is going to be part of this RICO case. The only thing I could see being associated here is the intelligence community's malfeasance handling the case. I don't think any of the files aspects of the people within the case are going to be brought in. Like, I don't think we're going to see charges on people who were participating in whatever Epstein was doing brought about in the RICO case. We could see charges brought on the intelligence community for what they did surrounding the case. Does that make sense? That's where I think we differ.
It does. Where I think we disagree is that I think that the former is a key part of the motive. So it's not just that they wanted to cover up the fact that they all like to have sex with children. It's that they were using blackmail, and the intelligence community, in my theory of this, the people that handled this case as part of the intelligence community prior to January 20th of 2025 would be defendants or witnesses.
That would include some of Trump's DOJ.
It would. Yeah, absolutely it would. But that's the thing is, this is a bit of a side quest, but I think I told you this story before. I was arguing with my aunt about something having to do with the intelligence community. She was, going on and on about how the Democrats were doing something, this and that. And I exasperated, said, Michelle, it's the CIA. And her response was, but Trump's in charge now.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that when we're talking about the intelligence community, we're talking about clandestine covert operations. There's minimal documentation, and these people operate in the shadows and under cover of deception. It's not going to change when the political person at the top changes, right? They're still going to do. But what we believe, and what I certainly believe, is that President Trump is cleaning that up. We're not going to be in forever psyops. We're not going to have intelligence operations run on Americans on U.S. soil anymore. It's a big part of what I voted for, is for that shit to end. To end it, you'd have to adjudicate it, I think.
I agree. So let's nail down like the terms of the bet, because in order for there to be a winner or a loser, we need to like have something pretty explicit like mapped out here. And again, I think the only aspect of the Epstein files that could potentially get into this case is the intelligence community surrounding it. Do you think there will actually be Epstein files, like documentation? Like, should we do charges brought? Like, I don't know how we should define the terms here.
Yeah, I think the hard part about a court of law is that when you get to the point where the evidence is presented in court, you don't necessarily know where it came from, right? Because there's a whole bunch of back and forth between the parties in the court that happens before trial, where this evidence is in, that evidence is out. We don't have proper chain of custody on this. Oh, wait, we can get it over here because we have something that corroborates it. There's a whole bunch of horse trading and clarification, kind of distillation of what the evidence at trial is going to be. So it can't be that, they say this, and this is the information we got from the Jeffrey Epstein files that's going to put John Brennan in jail, right? They're not going to say that, and we're not necessarily going to know that. To me, it comes down to the blackmail, which I think was our initial dispute when we were talking about this offline. It comes down to the blackmail, and it gets down for me into the motive. If we see that there is blackmail operation against the blackmail evidence that's being used, and I think that would be something. I think the blackmail allegations would be an overt act in the conspiracy. Now, this might be an easy way to clarify what the terms are. President Trump has said, throw in Epstein into the special prosecutor. He also said this was the other day out in front of the plane. He said the credible information has already been passed on. There's a bunch of fake stuff, right? But the credible information has already been passed on. And then he immediately started talking about the RICO. And this is where you and I, because I was like, he's confirming it's connected. And you're like, he's not confirming. And you're correct. He wasn't confirming. But in as much as Trump ever confirms anything like this, I think that was pretty close, because he said, the credible information has already been passed on. The rest of it's fake, just like the Russia collusion hoax, the Hunter Biden laptop, the things. Each one of those things, Russia collusion, and I think within Russia collusion, there's a bunch of them. Hunter Biden laptop, the 51 former intelligence letter, those are overt acts in the conspiracy. They had a meeting of the minds to propagate false information that they knew was false to hurt the president. And then they executed that, right?
Yep.
They thought about it, doing it, they executed it. I think that we're going to see something similar with the Epstein drama. And it's because it is a critical, in my opinion, critical act in this conspiracy. It's how they kept everybody quiet. It's how they kept everybody in line. And the financial aspects of this, I think, correct. It's my belief in this is that that's a big part of how they kept everybody in line. But I think when one other thing, the files, you mentioned the files, right?
Yep.
This has been a really interesting op to watch, because first it was the list, and everybody wanted to see the list. Then, and nobody wants to talk about this, but the very next day, after Pam Bondi said it's on my desk, she gave out the binders, and in the binders was the flight logs, and the flight logs is a list, right? So it's like I'm having a hard time with the Pam Bondi lied thing, because I think everybody read into what Pam Bondi said, and when they didn't get what they wanted out of it, they turned on her pretty harshly, and I think inorganically. But they did give out a list, right? They gave out the flight logs. But there's also the autopsy files, and there's people out there talking about that. That's what Brian wants most, is the autopsy files on Epstein. There's the financial files. The Prometheus update was talking about that. Robbie Starbuck was also talking about that. You can get a lot of these people. We don't have to see child porn. We don't have to watch videos of people hurting kids, but you should be able to find this stuff in the financial records. So when people say release the Epstein files, they don't ever define what they mean by that. It does sort of sound like a lot of them want to see powerful people raping children. Like that's what they're looking for, and that's what's going to make them happy. And that's sick shit, in my opinion. But there's a whole bunch of different types of files. I think the financial files, email files where they have meetings of the minds and coordinating things, I think those will be a part of the RICO. I think a lot of that comes through, this is again, belief based on what we know, but I don't have any like definitive information on this. But the Hillary Clinton email stuff is a overt act in the conspiracy already. It's going to be declassified. I think there's a lot of overlap there.
Okay, so to me, and tell me if I'm wrong. You think there's going to be aspects of what's in the Epstein files that are going to be roped in to this Grand RICO case?
Yes, but I'm not using anybody else's definition of Epstein files.
Okay, that's fine, but I think that's not going to be the case unless it's malfeasance handling it. You know what I mean? So like, there's the distinction. I don't think we're going to see like blackmail material or financial records or anything from the Epstein case brought in as part of the RICO, like part of what Clinton and the Russiagate and all those people were doing. But I do think we could potentially see intelligence community mishandling of the case or malfeasance of the case, because potentially there's overlap from some of the same actors, right? But I don't think we're going to see any of like this file from the Epstein case, this financial transaction helped pay for Clinton's serve. You know what I mean? Like those, I don't think we're going to see those kind of connections. I think it's going to be a broad intelligence community. This is what they've been doing, and this is how they've been mishandling things to protect people and maybe dictate, American politics and global politics even. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think that we're going to see the Epstein case be in some way considered an overt act in this conspiracy. And that could be what you're saying, though, which is where it's, we're not really necessarily disagreeing, because it could be President Trump has said, right, it was just like Russiagate. It was fabricated, fake files kind of thing. Well, Russiagate is multiple overt acts. The Hunter Biden laptop is at least one overt act. The Hillary Clinton emails is at least one overt act. I would think that we see if there is a intelligence community putting a poison pill into whatever evidence that they have, those kinds of things. I think we see that as another overt act because it fits. It fits with what they're establishing as overt acts otherwise. And it could be hopium, right? I do hold hopium on this Epstein case. Jeffrey Epstein is alive is the most hopium position that I hold in any domain ever.
And yes, I don't think we'll ever see him come out as alive. I
want him to like bust into the courtroom to testify when Hillary Clinton is on trial or some shit.
Could you imagine? But yeah, awesome. So I think what you said there is like the I could see the intelligence community inserting aspects into the Epstein files again as part of their malfeasance. That's where I'm drawing the line, is like intelligence community malfeasance is where we see this RICO. That's what. But that's
the Grand RICO. Comey and Brennan are the only two named people in this investigation right now. There's going to be more, certainly, sure. I think, but we are talking about the intelligence community. The intelligence community is the shadow, enforcement apparatus for the global cabal here, in my opinion.
For sure. I do think, though, there's a level of speculation involved when it comes to tying Epstein into that. I know there's reports and testimony and stuff where he has even said that he's done things for the CIA, but I don't think we've seen definitive proof that he was blackmailing people on behalf of the CIA. And I think that's like what people are expecting to see out of this. And I don't know if we're going to get that. I don't believe we're going to get that. So it's really hard to draw like the line for the bet here. Like, how are we going to determine a winner? Because we both, to a degree, think aspects of the Epstein situation will be in this RICO thing. I just don't think it's going to be the blackmail and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, so I think, and I think it potentially could be, because it is right now, as we know it with the Grand RICO, it's the intelligence community on trial, and they're saying, like, the narrative we're getting about this is it's Democrats, right? That it's but Democrats aren't real. Like,
Yeah.
Democrats and Republicans aren't real. When we're talking about the battle that's happening in the shadows, I really believe we're talking about patriots versus the global cabal. And I
Yep.
think that there's both good twin, evil twin kind of stuff, right? Within our entities, the intelligence community and their treasonous conduct in pursuit of political power and actual power, is I think that's what's on trial here. And I think that they committed treason in pursuit of not so they couldn't let President Trump be president, right? That's where Russiagate is. And we're all being told that this grand conspiracy kind of starts at Russiagate, but Russiagate was a cover-up. Russiagate was a cover-up of everything that they were doing in those executive offices and in the, broader ecosystem of public-private partnerships that were against the interest of the United States of America, against the interest of the American people. Things like 9/11 and Benghazi and the Iran nuclear deal and the pallets of cash. Benghazi gets us to the assassination of Ambassador Stevens. Part of the problem we have with public trust, a big part of the problem that we have with public trust right now, is that enough has been revealed to us that we can see that a lot of these things were not what we were told at the time. 9/11 is a great example. Benghazi is another great example. But there's never been any catharsis for that. There's never been any resolution for all of these ops, but we have spent about the past 10, 15 years learning about all of these ops. We're never getting back to public trust until there's accountability for that. The reason I think Jeffrey Epstein is alive is because of who he could testify against.
Yep.
Not because, he would be, I don't think he's the top of the pyramid, right? He's a coke dealer, essentially. Coke is a metaphor for horrible shit. But he was like the street dealer, right?
Yeah.
He's a great person to testify against the people that are controlling the world from the shadows. And that's why it is my hopium that he is alive. But it's always been difficult for me. And I've believed that ever since he allegedly died. But it's always been difficult for me because there wasn't a vehicle. It didn't appear that there was a case that was going to allow us to take these very powerful people who always skirt accountability no matter what, right? Hillary Clinton emails and Jim Comey is a great example of that. They always skirt accountability. We've never seen a type of case or investigation, a vehicle that could get us to that resolution, which would get us to a place where we could start to rebuild trust in the golden age, in America for the golden age. And I think that this case, the reason I'm so excited is that this case is that first vehicle. It's always been a hang up for me that we don't have that kind of vehicle towards justice. And in this investigation, what the scope of what they've announced they're covering, and it will expand, right? That's how these things work. It will expand. New people will be added, and all of that kind of stuff. I'm excited about it, and I know I could be standing on a rug, and it could all we just no prosecutor would prosecute all of these things. Sorry, guys, you just have to suck it up. Don't think that's a satisfying answer for anybody in America at this point. And I think that the administration has done a really good job getting everybody amped up and pissed off and demanding justice. I don't think that's an accident. I don't think Trump says, don't talk about this because he doesn't want people to talk about that, because Trump's not an idiot. He knows exactly what is going to happen when he says, don't talk about this.
Yes. So, I mean, you said a lot there, and I'm going to try to pick pieces here to respond to. So the thing you said about you don't think Epstein's alive or don't think Epstein's dead because he's such a great person to testify to those people.
Yeah.
That could be the same exact reason why he would be dead, is he's the perfect person to testify against all these people. But what you said there regarding why, like, we need this catharsis on a lot of these issues. I don't see the the Rico Grande case as like, okay, we're going to have this broad spectrum of 10-year things. And while we're exposing these 10 years of malfeasance by the intelligence community, we're also going to go in and rectify each situation along the way. Like, I don't think they're going to go back and like, okay, well, they did a crime here on Hillary Clinton and the DNC email servers or whatever, and there was crimes there. So we are going to go and reinvestigate that and relitigate that as well. And then we're going to go into the Russiagate hoax, and we're going to investigate that and relitigate and charge people there. And then all along the way, the COVID. I mean, who knows how many things they're going to put within this 10-year window. I think we're going to get the overarching thing and the main players that were doing the malfeasance and covering up the crimes, the series of crimes at the top. And then after that, once that's exposed and those people are prosecuted, then I could definitely see like them going back. Okay, well, now we've proven and indicted people because they didn't properly handle the Epstein situation and the Russiagate stuff and the DNC server and so and so and so forth. After the fact, that's when you go back and relitigate all that stuff because they weren't investigated properly in the first place. If you even are allowed to do so, I don't even know what the rules are on some of those things. But I don't think they're going to, each one is going to be included within this grand RICO. I think it's going to be more of a broader, like conceptual type of RICO, getting the main players and the main theme of it. And then afterwards, if they even can, they'll go back and get everybody on the lower stuff. Does that make sense?
It does. But I think in the context of this being a RICO, that the overt acts in the conspiracy are what's important. I think a lot of the stuff that you mentioned is evidence. It's evidence for the supporting arguments for those overt acts in the conspiracy. I'm with you. I don't think they go back and relitigate every aspect of the email server, but the reasoning for that, for the handling, Jim Comey's handling of that investigation, his announcement right before an election, because it does seem to be the way that they're framing this up is interference in 3 elections. Yeah. Right. That seems to be the way. So each one of the overt acts will be an overt act with the intention of interfering in one of 3 or more, like it could be, 2016 and 2020, the same overt act played. The details of the scandals that have been swept under the rugs, whichever ones are in service of getting them to a conviction on that specific overt act in the conspiracy, will be evidence. So I think we could see some of it, to your point. Like, it's not just going to be umbrella, because they have to prove that, like, stating that Hillary Clinton's emails and Jim Comey's handling of that was election interference is an allegation. That'll get you through a certain part of the trial, but at some point you have to prove it. And when you're going in to prove those overt acts, you're going to have a bunch of details and evidence and witness testimony, all that. And I think a lot of that exists.
It might. And so, tying this all together here and kind of wrapping it in a bow, we may have to discuss again, because I don't think we've outlined the terms of the bet in here necessarily, but this has been a really good conversation. I think a good one for the audience to listen to. The overt acts within the Epstein case and how Trump is talking about it. I do think we're going to see potentially proof, or they inserted fake files on Trump or damaging to Trump or something into the Epstein case, and that it makes the whole demand for transparency and all these things and who set that up. It makes it a little more nefarious when you think about it, who's putting that forward and why they're doing it. It's you should be skeptical of some of these people, because if that's the case, did they know that there was planted evidence in there and that's why they wanted it released? And now it's a cover. So I could see evidence of that being included in the attempt to delegitimize Trump, because that's the overarching theme of this whole thing is stealing elections, delegitimizing Trump and whatnot. I could see that in there.
But why, John? Why do they have to delegitimize Trump?
I don't think it's going to connect to the blackmail pedophilia stuff.
That's a fair point. I think the blackmail pedophilia stuff was a part of how they fueled their portfolio of crime that is much, much bigger. We're talking about selling out the United States of America, selling out our people for their own personal gain. Things like the Iran nuclear deal and the pallets of cash, things like Benghazi. Yep. These are treasonous acts. It's much bigger than blackmail and pedophilia. Blackmail and pedophilia is fuel for how they're able to accomplish it in my theory of the case, right? So it's not, I've never called for the release of any sort of Epstein files. And the reason for that is that I've always wanted justice for the people that buy children. And in a court of law, if you've taken your evidence and thrown it out into the whole world, and all, you're going to sink your ability to introduce that evidence in court. And that's why I don't want the files really, whatever they are, financial files, records of people's fetishes, whatever the files are. I don't want them released unless we're beyond the point where justice is possible. I don't want, I feel like a lot of this outrage is, I want to know whether or not I was right about so-and-so. So give me the list so I can see it. Or I want to make content about this. I don't want any of that shit. I want justice for the people that allegedly buy and sell children and do horrible things to them. Those people need to be brought to justice. But also I want justice for the people that are selling out the United States of America and my children's future. I happen to think it's the same people.
Yeah.
I think it's the same conspiracy.
I think I agree with that sentiment for sure. I don't think we're going to see the blackmail. And people are saying I'm talking with my hands now, so I'm just going to do this whole time every time I talk. I don't think we're going to see the things we want to see, the blackmail, the child pedophilia, all that stuff. I don't think that's going to be part of this Epstein or this Grand Rico case. I don't see it being part of it. But we'll see. Well, we're going to have to do this again, maybe even tomorrow, because I don't feel like I want to get through all the headlines yet. And I don't think we get advanced the terms.
Well, we have to figure out what our real core dispute is, because I don't think we're going to see the child porn and stuff in the case either. But I also don't think that's the point. I think that the blackmail, if it exists, the blackmail evidence will be used to prove motive of the overt acts in the conspiracy. And I think it's very important to that, and potentially a gold mine, especially if Epstein is alive. And
see, maybe that's a good point we can disagree on, is because I don't necessarily think they're going to use blackmail as the motive. I think they're going to keep motive just to attempting to interfere in the elections and delegitimize Trump and cover up various past crimes. But I don't think the Epstein stuff is going to be in there.
I'm not saying the blackmail is the motive. I'm saying the blackmail will be used to prove the motive.
Okay, maybe let's maybe talk about this tomorrow on the Liberty Den. How about that?
Okay,
because then we can have more time and we can get other people involved.
Hey, if you're watching, I see a bunch of people jumping in the chat for the first time and being first-time chatters. That's a great way to help out Badlands. So if you're watching and you don't usually chat, jump in and say hi in the chat.
Yeah, we appreciate it, guys. Thanks, Ash, for coming on. I will see you tomorrow on the Liberty Den, and we will continue this discussion.
Bye, guys.
Well, that was fun. I don't think me and her have had a chance to really discuss the Epstein stuff yet. Not like that anyway. And so we are going to do a bet. We just got to figure out exactly what we're betting on, because to a large part, we agree on most of the things. Anyway, let's start buzzing through this. There's no update on the Doge website. There is no update on the presidential website other than a few nominations that were sent to the Senate. I went through, there's no names that really piqued my interest. So, no biggie. I did want to point out one thing related to the Epstein files, and it has to do with Thomas Massie. This is something that I talked about yesterday, right? This bill that he's putting forth. Thomas Massie, we all deserve to know what's in the Epstein files, who's implicated, and how deep this corruption goes. Americans were promised justice and transparency. We're introducing a discharge petition to force a vote in the U.S. House of Representatives on releasing the complete files. Okay, talked about this yesterday. I do think this is kind of hilarious, and it's a great move, because I would love to see all these, elected officials, selected officials on the record voting for who they want to vote for. But here's the thing I do want to point out, and I love pointing out hypocrisy. I love pointing out people who are using the narrative to attack Trump, essentially, because that is what this is. I went back and looked, and I did a search on Massey's profile. You can all do this too. Go to his profile, click the little search button up here, type in Epstein, and it'll come up with all the things he's ever said about Epstein. Okay. And obviously, over the last couple weeks, he's been very vocal about Americans deserve transparency. Americans deserve transparency. On and on and on. We all deserve to know what's in the Epstein files. We want you to name and prosecute Epstein's clients. Best we can do is a $1.8 million of ads against the most fiscally conservative member of Congress. That's an oxymoron. No such thing exists. Doing polls about it. The fact that Epstein files haven't been released yet demonstrates that the president doesn't have yet operational control of the DOJ and FBI. I went back to, this is as far back as you can find a reference to Epstein, okay? March 27th of 2022. This is a New York Times article talking about Bill Gates, okay? And he just ties it to Epstein. And unlike many others, Mr. Gates started the relationship after Mr. Epstein was convicted of sex crimes. The only reference until February 10th of 2024, where he says, I demand the release of the Epstein client list. Okay. So you're like, oh, well, that was during the Biden administration. He was actually demanding the release of the Epstein client list. But then you click on this and look at what he's doing. He is making fun of it. Emma Robinson says, you should demand the release of Jeffrey Epstein's client list to the American public, and then we will know who's compromised. Start by leading on this issue. And then he does like the Michael Scott when I declare bankruptcy. He does the same thing. I demand the release of the Epstein client list as a joke. And people in the comments treated it as a joke. The whole sassy with Massey thing. We're seeing a lot of this. People are capitalizing on the narrative because it's such a hot button issue. And this is somebody Trump has, targeted. Obviously, Thomas Massey. He said he's going to campaign against him and all these things, whatever that even means in fake election system. But he's never actually cared about transparency over the Epstein client list. He's never actually cared about any of this shit until now, when it's politically damaging to Trump. And that is something that needs to be noted. Okay. So I just wanted to point that out. As cool as I think it is that somebody in Congress is actually putting forth a bill to get everybody on record of whether or not they want this transparency, Thomas Massey doesn't actually care about the transparency. He's only doing it to score political points. So just wanted you all to be aware of that. Let's go back here to a couple stories. I don't think there was any really juicy True Social posts from Trump today. Oh, yeah, this. So the Trump administration is pulling $4 billion from California's high-speed rail project. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has formally terminated $4 billion in federal funding for the California High-Speed Rail Authority weeks after putting the bullet train project on notice. In a Wednesday termination letter to the CEO of the authority, Federal Railroad Administration Acting Administrator Drew Feely wrote that the CHSRA breached the commitments it made in its original agreement, specifically by displaying an inability to complete the goals it set out to reach. Trump did have a True Social post on this. To the law-abiding, tax-paying, hardworking citizens of the United States of America, I am thrilled to announce that I've officially freed you from funding California's disastrously overpriced high-speed train to nowhere. This boondoggle, led by the incompetent governor of California, Gavin Newsom, which, by the way, did you guys see Gavin Newsom on with Sean Ryan, and he was like crying because Trump called him Newscum? Let's see if I can find it. Hold for processing. I'll come back and read this, and then I'll see if I can find that clip. Gavin Newsom has cost taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars, and we have received nothing in return except cost overruns. The railroad we were promised still does not exist and never will. This project was severely overpriced, overregulated, and never delivered. Thanks to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, not a single penny in federal dollars will go towards this Newscom scam ever again. This was an ill-conceived and unnecessary project and a total waste of taxpayer money, but no more. That's great. I love this. Pointing out as a fraud, but we did commit taxpayer dollars towards it. When do we get that back? How do we get that back? You're telling us it was a fraud. You're telling us it was ill-conceived and unnecessary and a waste of taxpayer dollars. I want my money back. How are we going to get that money back? That's the next step to this. Anyway, let me see if I can find the clip of him complaining about being called new scum. And if it's not easy for me to find, then I'm not gonna. I can't find it right now, so I'm not gonna bother. Tell Patriot, the Sean Ryan AI with Newscom talking about his little balls and being gay. I'd love to see that clip too. That could be a good outro. Go. Federal agents in Portland are now using President Trump's voice to clear anti-ICE riders off the property. Brilliant. That's funny. Just reading, seeing if there's anything else in the chat that I missed. Yeah, guys, make sure you give us a follow on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. Greatly appreciate it. Hit that thumbs up as well. Richard Rohr says there's actually a plan. That Q guy was right. If you'll just take the time to read the drops, we've been years ahead of schedule. One of these days, I'm going to read the drops, and what's going to happen when I don't come to the conclusions you want me to after reading the drops. You know, maybe I will come to the same conclusions. I don't know. Go dog go. Put this in the chat. Nick Sorter. Here we go.
This is the Federal Protective Service. The facility is closed and not open to the public. Stay out of the area of the driveway to allow for vehicular traffic. Remain on the sidewalk or...
That's funny. That's hilarious. Good for you, Portland. Anyway, okay, let's see what else I got here. We got America First Legal petitions federal election agency to require proof of citizenship for voter registration. I feel like every week, every other week, we get a story very similar to this, where America First Legal or some other, Trump orbit law firm or group is making some sort of lawsuit related to elections. I think they're great moves, but I still think we have a long ways to go to exposing our fraudulent election system before trying to attempt to fix little bits and pieces of it along the way. I mean, it helps, but we still have a lot of work to do. But America First Legal has filed a formal petition urging the U.S. EAC to amend the federal voter registration form to require documentary proof of U.S. citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections. The federal voter registration form, created under the 1993 National Voter Registration Act, currently allows applicants to affirm citizenship by simply checking a box and signing the form with no requirement to submit any verifying documents. AFL argues this honor system invites abuse and undermines election integrity by enabling illegal aliens to register and vote without consequence. AFL's petition proposes that the form be updated to require documents such as real ID, military ID, or U.S. passport, similar to measures adopted in states like Arizona, Georgia, Alabama, and Kansas. Court rulings have blocked full enforcement of these laws for federal elections due to the federal form's lack of a DPOC requirement. In Arizona, for example, over 40,000 individuals are currently registered to vote in federal elections without submitting any proof of citizenship, nearly 4 times the margin of Biden's 2020 victory in the state. Just checking the chat, guys. Seeing where we're at with things, seeing where you guys are at. I'll come back to the rants at the end here. So yesterday, Justice Department fires prosecutor Maureen Comey. And that is, yes, James Comey's daughter. Comey most recently led the federal prosecution of Sean Diddy Combs, which ended earlier this month with a conviction on a prostitution-related count, but acquittals on more serious charges. As an assistant U.S. attorney, Comey was part of the Southern District of New York team that handled Epstein's criminal case following his 2019 arrest on sex trafficking charges. The SDNY also oversaw the investigation into Epstein's associates, including Ghislaine Maxwell, his financial records, and potential co-conspirators after his death. The office held authority over the federal case and retained custody of key evidence files tied to Epstein's alleged network. She's the daughter of James Comey, the former FBI director fired by President Trump during his first term over the Russia hoax investigation. I mean, so she's part of a team there. She's an assistant, right? Right? She was an assistant, wasn't she? She wasn't the U.S. attorney. I'm pretty sure she was an assistant over there. There's a team of people at the SDNY who were part of whatever malfeasance may have been going on there, right? And I don't know if we've necessarily seen proof of that going on, but I think we will at some point. And it is interesting, the timing of it. They're talking about files being inserted into this Epstein case and the situation, and all of a sudden she gets fired. Trump, if you're trying to put this situation to bed, buddy, you're not doing a very good job. This does not help that narrative. I did see somebody in the chat earlier say that her husband, what's his name, Lucas Isikoff, is still there and taking over. And I don't know. I don't know. He works at Trump's DOJ. He's also, excuse me, an assistant U.S. attorney in SCNY. So, I mean, you fire one, you're going to fire the other one too? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, this is a good step. Her getting fired. I like it. No complaints from me. We have this story. I got to archive it quick. Yesterday, they voted on the rescissions bill. I think they got it passed. Trump's victory over PBS and NPR bias will be devastating for rural areas, station leaders say. Public television stations will be forced to make hard decisions in the weeks and months ahead after the Senate voted in the middle of the night to approve a bill that cancels all the federal funding for the network and for NPR. Radio and TV stations may need to lay off staffers and cut back on programming. Popular shows like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood may reach fewer people. Big Bird of Sesame Street fame isn't going away, but the financial system that supported him for decades is being stripped away. You know what, NPR and PBS, maybe you guys can like scrape and struggle like Badlands has done for 3 years and see what it's like. Like, it'd be great if we got federal freaking funding. Could do whatever we wanted to do. It's not easy out here. Come get demonetized and banned from all sorts of social media and all these other things. See what it's like. I love this. So I can't believe they actually passed the rescissions that Trump wanted. I think Murkowski and Collins were the only two that passed or that voted against it from the Republican side. In the initial rule vote, I think it was McConnell who also voted against it. They had J.D. Vance come in and break the tie. And then for the actual bill, the actual vote, he was on the right side of things. But this should be one of many. Like, they need to up the speed and the quantity of how many of these rescissions they start putting through, because there's a whole lot of waste, fraud, and abuse that needs to be clawed back. And the pace this took, just this, was not ideal. But maybe we'll see a much bigger rescissions package put forth here in the coming weeks. I'd almost expect it. Let's see here. There's stories that, let me see if I can find it. Did I not pull those up? Because yesterday, everybody was talking about Anna Paulina Luna and how she was breaking these stories that Trump was going to fire Jerome Powell and blah, 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 blah. And it may not be happening, guys. I'm seeing stories that Trump is denying his plan to fire Powell and isn't sure or isn't confident in using the 2.5 billion mismanagement of the oh shoot, that's not what I wanted. Hold on. Copy link, post it. Here we go. Here's that story. Trump downplays Powell dismissal threat as markets stabilize. President Trump said firing Fed Chair Jerome Powell is highly unlikely, but declined to completely rule out the possibility after discussing the idea with Republican lawmakers. Anna Paulina Luna told us it was confirmed. It was going to happen. Trump is now denying it. That could also mean nothing. Trump, we know, takes both sides, all sides of all these positions. You never know what he's actually going to do until he does it. But this is definitely clearly contradicting what Anna Paulina Luna was saying. Markets briefly tumbled on reports of an impending ouster before reversing course and stabilizing following Trump's downplay of removal plans. Jerome Powell has publicly reaffirmed his intention to serve out his term through May of 2026. A recent Supreme Court opinion and Federal Reserve statutes stipulate that the chair can only be removed for cause, preventing dismissal over policy disagreements. The White House and some Republicans have seized, I love when they use that word, they've seized on this, on the $2.5 billion Fed headquarters renovation as a potential pretext for removal, despite no evidence of fraud. Anyway, so we'll see. Rick Young, Trump has full power to downsize government now. He does. He just needs Congress to play along. Maggie Bundy, nice to see you, Maggie. Why is he inserting that narrative, trying to nudge Powell? Don't know. Do not know. It could be one of those instances where he's playing the opposite game and Powell's doing exactly what he wants. It could be totally genuine that they don't want Powell in there. It's hard to know until we see what he does, until we get to the culmination of whatever this op is. Oh man, I got 11 minutes left. Let's see. Senator Warren warned that if Trump fires Powell, markets will crash. Trump's nuclear power push weakens regulator and poses safety risks. Former officials warned. So the former administration, the people who didn't want us to, have this technological revolution, they are saying that Trump's push for it is now like a safety threat. We're going to just have a bunch of Chernobyls all over the place. Don't need to get into the details of that article, though. Let me see what else I got for you. I thought this is a good post from Patriots in Control. We talked about this a little bit on last night's Power Hour. We had a pretty good discussion about the narrative aspects of the Epstein quagmire, and I'd encourage you to watch it. At least an hour and probably 20 minutes of the show was just focused on Epstein and all sides of this thing. But this is a great point. We reached a point in time where a chunk of Trump supporters are now aligning themselves with MSNBC and fake news narratives about Trump and the Epstein files. This should set off major red flags that something else is going on here. What that is, I don't know, but Trump is giving off plenty of signal that Democrats and the media are up to their dirty tricks again. It's pretty simple. Who do you trust more, Trump or the Democrat mainstream media propaganda? You can also look at the flip side of that and say Trump is trying to get those people to do this. Totally plausible. Nothing really from just the news I wanted to discuss. I'm just really excited for them to drop that final. Like, I want to see the RICO details. I think I'll save that for tomorrow. Got the Maureen Comey thing. Got that. Man, I think I actually got through. Oh, Trump has announced that Coca-Cola will return to cane sugar. The company has not yet confirmed that's the case, but Trump did say that he spoke with them recently, and it's been a good move. President Donald Trump claimed on True Social that Coca-Cola agreed to replace high fructose corn syrup with cane sugar in its U.S. beverages. Coca-Cola has said it appreciates presidential interest, promising to announce more details soon without confirming any reformulation. Trump broke the story. They almost have to do it now. Because if they don't, what do they? No, we're going to argue to keep the fake sugar in our drinks. Doubt that's going to go over well. And then, yeah, that's all I got. I'll save the rest for tomorrow. So with that, let's do the rants real quick, and then I'll see if Chad has anything else super interesting to say. And we'll get you guys out of here. JT Brun 2 says, I work at 1G Research University, submit grants. In a meeting today, they discussed NSPM 33, research security, and new required training. Bet I was the only one in the meeting who knew what NSPMs are. T signed 121. That is fascinating. I want to see if that's one of the ones that we don't have full details on. Yeah, okay, so here we go. So NSPM 33, United States government supported research and development national security policy. It's NSPM 32 we still don't have. NSPM 30 and 29 we don't have. We also don't have, it goes from 21 to 27 with 2 in between. So there's like 4 missing in there. This is just so crazy. Go back and look at any of these other NSP, like any other president's NSPMs. There's very, very few that are missing from any of those. You know what? I can even look. Let's look at Biden's. Missing a 4. We're missing a 6, 13, 17, 21. That's it. It's like 4 throughout the whole term. And there is nothing crazy at the end in the last few months. Just fascinating. Fascinating stuff. But cool. That's really cool. I like hearing stories of people actually learning things from my show. Love it. Austin Field says, not sure if it was mentioned on DPH last night, but the phrase, eat your cake and have it too, is what led to the FBI to identify Kaczynski as being the Unabomber. So this goes back a while. I don't remember when we first had the discussion, but the first time that Bernie Bright brought up that phrase, I mentioned that show. I'd watched the documentary or the TV series about the Unabomber and how they focus in on that. And I was like, you just said that phrase wrong. And he had no idea. He's an author. He considers himself like this, wordsmith. And he didn't even know about saying the eat your cake and have it too wrong. But yeah, that's how I learned about it. So I love that point. Thank you for that comment. 12 Indie Boy. Such good convo with Ash and John. Disagree and agree on parts. I'm going to have to listen again just so I fully understand and figure out what bias I picked to confirm. That's so funny. Deborah Stars, nobody's talking about bunker busters. Don't the elites have deep bunkers to escape to? They can run, but they can't hide. Thank you, Deborah, for the rant. And I do still have you written down on my list to get to today. I have my kids at home, so I don't know when that'll be. After this, I'm going to go take care of them for a while, but I will get back to you at some point today. It might just be this evening. And Keith O'Hagan says, hey, John, don't compare Badlands Media to PBS. We all know pimping ain't easy, but pimping for kids with kids to kids is really hard. There you go. Thank you for that. And thank you, everybody. Well, that's what everybody's saying. It's have your cake and eat it too. It's whatever the main like popularized version of that is, it's actually the opposite. So I'm pretty sure it's eat your cake and have it too. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it originally was. Somewhere along the way, it got switched, and it's been wrong ever since. Anyway, I think that's all I got. I'm just checking to see if there's anything else I'm missing. And no, that's it. So yeah, you guys have a great rest of your day. Make sure you tune in tonight on G Money is still out of town, and so we have Breaking History taking his place in the 10:30 slot, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. But we have all sorts of stuff going on. I think we have special coverage stuff here this afternoon, and then it'll be taking it back at 4 p.m. Eastern. Quite Frankly show, which has been great. I did an interview with him last week, which was fun. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern. Sit Rep at 9 p.m. Eastern, and then Breaking History going live at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys check that all out. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Hit the thumbs up, everybody.
0. Extra, extra, read all about it. 2, 3. Let's get started.
That's real good.
Why they stopping me? Stopping me.